I remember the day it all clicked for me. I was sitting in my living room, the late afternoon sun glowing through the curtains, and I felt this tug, an almost physical yearning for deeper closeness. It wasn't purely about romance or anything quite so straightforward. It was a longing to feel alive again, to be truly seen and cherished in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. At 75, I'd spent years thinking intimacy was a young person's game, something we relinquish along with the hustle and bustle of middle age. But on that particular day, I realized I wasn't ready to settle for a life without tender moments of connection. There was so much more of me left to give and so much more life to soak up. Yet when I shared this realization with friends around my age, I was met with gentle smiles and resignation. "Ah, well, that's nice, dear," they'd say, as if my hope for a renewed spark of intimacy was sweet but impractical. I saw the same unspoken belief in each pair of tired eyes. "We're too old for this." That moment opened my eyes to a pressing problem many seniors face, the sense that our best days of closeness, be it emotional or physical, are behind us. We shrink ourselves into smaller versions, convinced no one wants to see our deeper layers anymore. And the real tragedy is that we start believing it, letting a vital part of our humanity quietly slip away. If we continue down that path, the stakes are enormous. We risk losing more than just the thrill of a loving embrace or the warmth of a trusted companion's laughter. We lose the chance to feel that electric spark that reminds us we're still here, still capable of excitement and comfort and new beginnings. Over time, that resignation can seep into other areas of life, draining our enthusiasm for adventure, curiosity, and even our willingness to care for our own well-being. It's like giving up a piece of who we are without putting up a fight. But it doesn't have to be that way. I'm going to share 4 lessons I learned when I decided to prioritize intimacy at 75. These aren't just sweet musings about holding hands on a park bench, though there's nothing wrong with that. They're insights that can genuinely transform how you relate to others and to yourself. If you stay with me through all 4, you'll discover simple yet potent ways to invite more warmth, closeness, and joy into your everyday life, no matter your starting point. And here's the promise. If you embrace even one of these lessons, you could find yourself experiencing a new level of emotional richness that makes each day feel more vibrant and meaningful. I'm not claiming to be a psychologist or a doctor, but what I've learned is backed by the real-life experiences of countless seniors who rediscovered a sense of connection they thought they'd lost forever. Experts in aging and mental health agree that nurturing our emotional and physical bonds can help keep us sharper, happier, and more engaged with the world around us. Before I dive in, I invite you to do 2 things. First, if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you won't miss future videos on how to live your best life in this wonderful stage. Second, if you find what I share helpful, leave a comment to let me know. If you don't, let me know that too. Your feedback is so important. It helps me tailor these conversations so they truly resonate with you. Now let's explore these 4 lessons that could change the way you think about intimacy, connection, and the possibilities that still lie ahead. Lesson 1 begins with a statement that might raise an eyebrow. We've been taught to be grateful for whatever crumbs of connection we can get. But what if that mindset is robbing us of the fuller relationships we deserve? The common misconception among seniors is that we should dial down our expectations. Accept a phone call from the grandkids once every few weeks, endure the lonely evenings in front of the TV, and be grateful we're not in worse shape. That mindset may keep you from complaining, but it also keeps you from actually reaching for the connection you crave. Let me share the story of Marion, who's 77 and used to feel guilty every time she wanted more than she had. She'd raised her children, served as a nurse for decades, and believed the rest of her life was about accepting her decline with dignity. But inside, she felt increasingly isolated and yearned for a companion who would really hear her out. She told herself, "Who am I to ask for more at this age?" Then one day, after she nearly forgot the last time she'd had a deep conversation that sparked real joy, Marion decided she'd had enough. She started initiating phone calls and gentle invitations to her friends to meet for tea. She joined a local group for older adults who loved discussing books and life stories. Instead of waiting passively for invitations, she created the opportunities herself. What surprised Marion most wasn't how responsive people were. It was how much she'd been depriving herself by assuming she shouldn't ask for more. The truth is that yearning for closeness, even at 75 or 85, is as natural as breathing. The bold move is to recognize that you can still cultivate deeper connections, no matter how many birthdays you've celebrated. The practical step here is to ask yourself, when was the last time you reached out to someone without telling yourself it was selfish or pointless? This could be as simple as leaving a voicemail for an old friend or inviting someone over for a cup of coffee. If you still drive, you might join a club, gardening, reading, music, you name it. If you're less mobile, online communities are thriving places where you can connect with folks who share your passions. The emotional benefit of embracing this lesson is a sense of empowerment. Rather than feeling at the mercy of loneliness or waiting around for someone to call you, you become an active participant in your own social life. You realize you're not being needy or unrealistic. You're simply honoring a very human desire to be seen, heard, and appreciated. When you stop settling for crumbs and start believing that real, meaningful connection is possible, you tap into a well of hope that energizes your entire day. Let's move on to lesson 2 with another potentially controversial idea. Physical closeness isn't just for the young. In fact, it can be even more vital as we age. One common myth is that seniors lose interest in touch altogether. You see it in media portrayals. If an older couple holds hands, it's considered cute. But rarely do we imagine seniors longing for hugs, cuddles, or even more intimate forms of closeness. Society seems to suggest we should be content with a pat on the shoulder once in a while. Here's the reality. Our need for affectionate touch never really goes away. Consider Frank, who's 80. For years, he lived with an aching loneliness after his wife passed, telling himself that part of his life was over. He believed that any desire for physical closeness at his age was somehow inappropriate or embarrassing. But at a routine doctor's visit, he learned that a startling number of seniors struggle with depression and decreased immune function, partly due to a lack of touch. Something clicked in Frank's mind. Maybe he wasn't just missing companionship. Maybe his body and soul were missing the comforting warmth of another person. The surprising truth is that gentle, meaningful touch, whether it's holding a friend's hand or enjoying a massage, can trigger positive hormonal responses, reduce stress, and even improve circulation. One practical step is to seek out safe and comfortable ways to experience touch. Attend a gentle exercise or dance class, consider a massage tailored for seniors, or simply ask loved ones for a hug when you see them. You'd be amazed at how many people will respond positively if you ask for what you need. Emotionally reconnecting with the power of touch can make you feel alive in a way you haven't felt for years. It's a reminder that you're still a person with valid, vibrant desires. Even if you're not currently in a romantic relationship, there are ways to incorporate healthy touch through friends, grandchildren, or supportive community gatherings. There's a renewed sense of possibility that comes when you accept that your body deserves comfort and affection just as much as your mind craves conversation and friendship. Now, if you're still with me, I'd love to know you're here and engaged. Type the number 2 in the comments to let me know you caught these first 2 lessons and found them helpful. Also, if you haven't already subscribed, consider doing so now so you don't miss future discussions on topics that matter deeply to us at this stage in life. Lesson 3 might make you rethink everything you believed about self-care. We often assume that once we hit retirement, we've earned the right to let ourselves go a bit. I've done my time, we say. I don't need to fuss over how I look or feel anymore. But here's a bold statement. Taking pride in your body and mind can reignite your sense of intimacy from the inside out. The misconception is that self-care is vanity, especially as we age. We worry people will think we're wasting time or money if we get a nice haircut, buy a new outfit, or even join a gym. But I'm here to tell you, self-care is one of the most powerful ways to stay connected with your own sense of desirability and self-worth. Consider Harriet, 76, who used to spend most of her days in a faded housecoat watching television. She convinced herself it didn't matter how she looked. After all, who would notice? But deep down, she felt invisible, even to herself. One afternoon, Harriet's granddaughter invited her to a virtual yoga class. Initially, she scoffed, imagining it was something only spry 20-somethings did. However, after some gentle persuasion, Harriet decided to give it a try. She found a modified routine suitable for seniors, and for the first time in years, she focused on how her body moved and felt, rather than on what it couldn't do. Within weeks, she started to stand a little taller. She bought a pair of comfortable but stylish workout pants, her first new clothing item in years. The physical improvements were modest yet noticeable, but the most profound shift was in how she carried herself. Harriet realized she had more energy, and she began to see her body as capable and worthy of care, rather than something she just needed to put up with. She even found herself more open to friendly chats in the virtual class. The result? A newfound confidence that rippled into her social life, making her more willing to forge new connections and rekindle older ones. The surprising insight here is that intimacy often starts with how you feel about yourself. If you see yourself as unimportant or past the point of self-improvement, that belief can block you from engaging deeply with others. On the flip side, nurturing your health, eating better, doing gentle exercises, updating your wardrobe, can spark a sense of vibrancy that makes you more open to emotional and physical connection. The actionable step is simple. Pick one self-care habit to adopt this week. Maybe it's a 5-minute morning stretch routine, a new skincare practice, or simply wearing a color that brightens your mood. Notice how this small shift can alter your sense of self. When you treat yourself as someone worthy of care and attention, others are more likely to treat you that way too. The emotional benefit is huge. You start feeling like a person who still has much to give and receive. The improvement in self-confidence alone can do wonders for sparking connections, whether they're friendly chats at the grocery store or opportunities for deeper companionship. It's not about vanity, it's about reminding yourself that you matter. Finally, Lesson 4 challenges another widespread belief. Once you've reached a certain age, it's too late to talk about old wounds or heartbreaks. We tell ourselves we should have gotten over everything by now, but bottling up emotional baggage can silently sabotage your ability to connect intimately in the present. The misconception is that discussing past pains or regrets is burdensome or pointless. We fear we'll be judged or that we're dwelling on negativity. Yet I've seen firsthand how facing old emotional scars can unlock a whole new capacity for closeness. A friend of mine named Ronald, 79, carried a quiet sorrow from a broken friendship that dated back decades. He never spoke of it, convinced that digging into that wound would be fruitless at his age. But every time Ronald tried to forge new friendships or open up to someone, an unspoken hesitation held him back. It was as if the hurt from that old betrayal kept him from fully trusting anyone. One day, a counselor at his senior center mentioned how unresolved emotional conflicts could weigh heavily on the heart, even decades after the fact. It took courage, but Ronald booked a few counseling sessions to address the past. He was astonished at how liberating it felt to articulate those old hurts, to admit the regret he'd carried. Far from wallowing in self-pity, he realized he was finally giving himself permission to heal. Over the next few months, that burden he'd carried for so long began to lighten. For the first time in years, he found himself striking up conversations with people at the center, open to the possibility of genuine friendships. The counterintuitive truth is that looking back, when done with the intent to heal, can pave the way for brighter tomorrows. You don't have to bury everything under a facade of resilience. A practical step could be journaling about a past hurt or confiding in a trusted friend, spiritual advisor, or mental health professional. Even a short conversation can be transformative if it helps you name the wound and consider releasing it. By no means does that journey happen overnight, but each step dissolves a bit of the armor we put up to protect ourselves. The emotional reward for unburdening yourself is immeasurable. You might notice you're laughing more freely, hugging more confidently, and even feeling braver about pursuing new relationships. It's as if every piece of old baggage you release makes room for a fresh, more hopeful perspective. If you found these last two lessons eye-opening, let me know by typing the number 4 in the comments. I love seeing who's still with me because it shows we're in this together, learning from each other's experiences. And remember, Subscribing ensures you won't miss future conversations on living a fuller life, even when everyone else thinks you've outgrown that possibility. As we come to the end of our time together, take a moment to picture the life you could enjoy by embracing these four lessons. Imagine waking up each day feeling confident and open-hearted, knowing you have friendships or even a romance that lights up your spirit. Envision yourself savoring gentle touch, an embrace from a dear friend, or a quiet moment of holding hands, without feeling any embarrassment for wanting it. Picture yourself standing taller because you've invested in self-care, realizing that you deserve to feel your best. And perhaps most importantly, imagine the relief of having confronted an old heartbreak, leaving you free to connect more deeply in the here and now. The stakes are high, but the rewards are enormous. There's a renewed vibrancy in living when you allow real, authentic intimacy to flourish. It can breathe life into routines that once felt dull and remind you that you're never too old to discover new facets of joy. If you find these ideas resonate, don't wait. Pick one lesson to act on this very week. Reach out to someone you've been missing, sign up for a gentle fitness class, give yourself permission to talk about an old wound, or simply ask for that hug you've been too shy to request. Which lesson spoke to you the most today? Take a moment to consider how it might apply to your life. Maybe you've been longing to reconnect with an old friend. Perhaps you've been avoiding physical closeness because you felt it wasn't appropriate for your age. Or maybe you're ready to dress up a bit, start a simple exercise routine, and see just how differently you'll carry yourself. Visualize a day in your new life. You wake up feeling valued and needed. You share a cup of tea or coffee with a companion who genuinely listens, and you rest at night content in the knowledge that you've chosen hope over resignation. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing the one thing you learned and how you plan to use it in your life. Your words could inspire someone else to take that first step toward deeper intimacy. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need encouragement today. It's amazing how a small act of sharing can create a ripple effect of warmth and connection in our community. Your presence here means so much. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and remember, you have the power to rekindle your sense of closeness, no matter your age or circumstances. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we'll explore even more ways to live with purpose, joy, and open-hearted curiosity.